there is nothing special or unusual about this particular variant, which is leading or which is resulting in this kind of surge that is being witnessed in China. As I said, there is nothing unusual or particularly frightening about this BF.7 variant. Lockdown is a pretty far-fetched option right now. I don't think we are even thinking in those terms. These surges cannot be ruled out.
The current surge in COVID 19 infections in China is believed to be driven by the BF.7 subvariant of Omicron that is circulating in the country. Two cases of the Omicron subvariant BF.7 have been detected in India so far. The first case was reported in Odisha in September and the second in Gujarat in November. According to a study published in Cell Host and Microbe Journal, BF.7 subvariant has a 4.4-fold higher neutralization resistance than the original D614G variant. This means that in a lab setting, antibodies from vaccinated or infected individuals were less likely to destroy BF.7 variant. However, the BF.7 variant is not the most resilient subvariant. Amitabh Sinha, resident editor Pune of the Indian Express, tells us about the BF.7 subvariant of Omicron and the risk the variant poses for India.
It seems that the virus is spreading at a very fast rate in China. Now, the official numbers coming out from China do not suggest anything unusual happening in that country, by the way. So the numbers that have come out in the last few days, they show that between 2,500 to 3,500 cases are being reported on a daily basis. This is much lesser than the about 30,000 to 40,000 cases that were being reported at the start of this month, right? So if we just go a little back, the current surge in China, it hasn't started in the last couple of days. It's continuing for at least a month. It started somewhere around towards the end of last month, and then it spread very fast. And in between, we had a period wherein China was reporting about, some days 25,000, some days it went up to 40,000 on certain days. So it went up to 40,000 on certain days, which is a record for China. China, through most of the first 3 years of the pandemic, was reporting very low numbers. In fact, till March or April, when it first saw a surge, China's daily count of cases were barely in the hundreds, right? So the first time it started reporting numbers in thousands was in March and April, which is when the country saw the first surge happening. And now again, it has started showing, it has started reporting high number of cases. So it hasn't happened. What is happening in China right now, the discussions on China right now, this has not happened in the last 2 or 3 days. It's been going on for at least 3 to 4 weeks, right? And by China's own numbers, it would suggest that, they are past the peak was actually in the first week of December and not now. So if we go by the numbers that are being reported by China, then there is nothing unusual happening at this point of time. But it's also very clear, and there are lots of media reports now coming out which are suggesting that the situation is much more serious in China compared to what is being reported. what is coming out in the official numbers, and that it is likely to become more serious in the coming days. So what is expected widely is that the number of infections in China would grow very rapidly in the coming days, and it will show up in the official numbers also. It's a sublineage of the Omicron variant. The Omicron variant, if you remember, has been in circulation since last year. It's been more than a year that it has been circulating, and in the meanwhile, it has evolved into newer subvariants, sublineages. Right now, according to the World Health Organization, there are at least 500 different sublineages of the Omicron variant, which are in circulation. BF.7 happens to be one of them, which is circulating in China. But remember, the variant, the variant in question in China probably has nothing to do with the kind of surge that is being seen in China, right? There is nothing special or unusual about this particular variant, which is leading or which is resulting in this kind of surge that is being witnessed in China. The variant has very little hand. What is happening in China, the surge, actually, the rapid rise in numbers is very clearly documented. It is a fallout of China's zero COVID policy, the extremely restrictive kind of strategy that China had adopted for the last 3 years in dealing with the pandemic. And now that some of the restrictions have been eased, and in fact, even if these restrictions had not been eased, this situation would have arisen at some point of time, wherein once the virus is able to break through the defenses of that that zero COVID policy, the hard lockdowns, the prolonged isolations of all the suspected cases and those kind of things, once the virus is able to break through the defenses, then it spreads very, very rapidly, because Chinese population has been largely uninfected. And because they have been uninfected, they do not have any natural immunity. And because they don't have a natural immunity, they are all susceptible to the virus. So once the virus is able to break through the defenses, it sees a very large number of susceptible people, which can potentially be infected, and therefore it it spreads very, very rapidly. So the situation in China right now is not because of any specific or any special characteristic of the variant, but the fact that China's zero COVID policy, the way it handled the pandemic till now, that has triggered this kind of situation. It's not surprising at all. It's an Omicron sublineage. Omicron has been circulating in India. BF.7 getting detected in India is hardly surprising, and it's not worrying. It's not a matter of concern. In fact, it would not even be surprising if it was found that BF.7 has been circulating in India even before it reached China. There is absolutely, as I said, there is nothing unusual or particularly frightening about this BF.7 variant. We have not been detecting, the BF.7 got detected for the first time yesterday and today, mainly because we had stopped looking for these variants. We had not been looking the genetic sequencing, which identifies the variants. The genetic sequencing work almost came to a halt because we did not have enough number of cases, and the last genetic sequence bulletin that I could see was from September. After that, I haven't seen genetic sequence bulletin coming out. So the sequencing work, the surveillance work almost came to a halt. It is not that these variants have not been circulating in India, it's just that we have not been looking for them. And now that we have started looking for them, we have found a few cases, and that's hardly surprising. There's nothing to be worried about on that count. This particular variant does not seem to have any special quality or any unusual quality which would raise our concerns. Vaccination till now, our experience with vaccination has been that vaccination has not been uh, preventing infection by any significant amount, right? Vaccination has been very, very effective in reducing the severity of the disease and preventing deaths. But infection, it has not been able to prevent to any a large degree. So the infections, when they increase, it would increase or decrease. It would not be because whether the number of people, whether people have been vaccinated or not. Now, the booster uptake has been low, of course, and that is the obvious reason for that is that as the number of cases began to die down, a lot of people think that COVID is no longer a threat, and therefore they have not got themselves vaccinated. If there is a rise in number of cases again at some point of time, we will see a heightened interest in getting people vaccinated. In any case, the vaccination, has is effective only for a limited time period. Our booster doses started at at the start of this year. It's all, even people who got themselves vaccinated at the start of this year with a booster dose, probably their immunities would have reduced by a significant amount at this point of time. So, vaccination, there would be a increased interest in getting people getting themselves vaccinated once people start seeing COVID or this virus as a renewed threat. Now, that threat has not been there in India for a pretty long time. Since March or April, uh, people have stopped seeing COVID as a threat to themselves, and that's why we haven't seen enough vaccination, at least in the booster category. Lockdown is pretty far fetched right now. We have seen. I mean, we haven't seen a lockdown since any major lockdown since April or May of 2020, isn't it? In the meantime, we have we have learned to manage the pandemic quite well. Even if there is a surge, and there have been surges after that, there was the Delta surge last year. There has been an Omicron surge after that, early this year. We haven't gone into lockdowns. Certainly not. Certainly not the kind of lockdowns that were seen in China, but even otherwise, I mean, we haven't gone in for lockdowns since May of 2020, at the start of the pandemic. So, lockdown is a pretty far-fetched option right now. I don't think we are even thinking in those terms. These surges cannot be ruled out, in the sense that a fresh surge of cases in India cannot be entirely ruled out. China or no China, this has nothing to do with China. In fact, it's possible that the next surge is because of the Chinese situation right now, but it can happen even without what is happening in China. That's a completely different matter. It has the virus is very much in circulation. It has not gone out. It has not disappeared from the world, and therefore it's very possible that there would be at some point of time, we do not know when, at some point of time, there is a fresh surge or a fresh wave in India as well. Of course, like other countries have seen many more surges in the period that we have not seen any.